Three blunders that led to the Trinity. Unitarian Christians argue that the Trinity is a doctrine that emerged long after the apostles died, evolving into existence over the centuries after the New Testament was written. Not only that, but we can offer an explanation of just how this evolution occurred. Here are three big theological mutations that leave us now in need of further reformation to roll back where Christianity went wrong on the identity of God. Blunder number 1: creation by another God and a threat to monotheism. The influx of Gentile followers of Jesus in the first few centuries after his resurrection included influential intellectuals like Justin Martyr and Origen, men who had been schooled in the teachings of Plato, the famous Greek philosopher. Plato held that God could not create directly, but rather must use an intermediary builder he called the demiurge, a sort of subcontractor, because God was too transcendent to get his hands dirty himself. This demiurge was sometimes referred to as God's reason, the Greek word logos, by pre-Christian writers like Philo of Alexandria. So when men like Justin brought this demiurge idea with them to Christianity, it was pretty easy for them to read it into the first chapter of John's Gospel, where God's logos becomes flesh in the man Jesus. These innovating logos theologians were even comfortable saying that Christians now followed two gods, the one true God, the Father, and another lesser God beneath the first, this logos. But this, from a biblical point of view, was a big mistake. Other Christians at the time protested that in the Bible, there is only one true God, and he takes all the credit for creating. No help required from someone else. Blunder number 2: divinity creep and shared essence. As time went on, blunder number 1 became more and more popular among the ruling class of bishops, even if it was criticized by many ordinary Christians, as both Justin and Origen admit. But this new view created a tension. This belief about two gods had to be resolved, because the Christian Bible taught one true God only, and everyone knew it. One solution was to keep this second divine being firmly in a subordinate second place, behind and below the one true God, the Father. But others emphasized how very divine this logos was. An argument arose about whether this logos was brought into existence by God a long time ago, as Arius and others such as Justin Martyr before him thought, or whether God eternally generates him, as Origen and others after him thought. This set off the Council of Nicaea in 325, where the Council of Catholic Bishops, with a significant assist from Emperor Constantine, who suggested the Greek term homoousios, concluded the term, which means same essence, could settle the relationship between God and his Logos Son. Their point was that the Logos was as divine as God is. If anything, this made matters worse, as now in the minds of many, this meant you had two equal gods. The Nicene Creed itself says of the Logos and God that they are true God from true God, and you don't have to be a mathematician to see that is two gods, not one. Another big blunder, compounding the first. It was bad enough for the church to have two gods, one subordinate to the other, but worse, now the church had two equal gods. Blunder number 3: a new concept of God. Blunder number 2 led to decades of church strife and led to blunder number 3. Church leaders struggled with how to recover biblical monotheism in the face of two persons that were each fully God. This chaos included dozens of contradictory council rulings, considerable violence, and the church siding on multiple sides of Roman civil wars, since after Constantine and Nicaea in 325, the state had now taken charge of settling church disputes. Into this conflict waded bishops Gregory of Nyssa and Gregory of Nazianzus. To solve the two gods problem, they simply smushed both gods of the Council of Nicaea together and added one more, the Holy Spirit, to boot. This is the famous 3 persons in one being definition. But while this new definition of God allowed them to say they worshiped one God, a tripersonal one, it also introduced the following problem. How exactly do three gods smushed together equal one God? Seems like you either have one true God acting as if he were three, or three true gods acting as if they were one. The most usual answer then and now? It's a mystery. As if that helps. And that's where the discussion ended, because in 381, the Emperor Theodosius forced an end to arguments, and this new baffling idea of God became untouchable orthodoxy from then on. Another huge blunder. Thanks to these three blunders, Christians now have to decide which Trinity trouble they prefer. Is God really one self, acting towards us in three ways? Or is God really three selves, working together perfectly, an admirable group? Neither one fits with the Bible, and we can see why. Three big blunders that took the church in a wrong direction. Protestants have reformed mistakes in the past. Why not these as well? Let's roll back these confused and confusing speculations and stick with clear biblical teaching. Let God be himself, the Father alone, as the New Testament clearly and everywhere says, and let Jesus be God's human Son, and let the Spirit be God's power at work in the world. As we can see from the Protestant Reformation itself, it's never too late for Jesus' followers to undo the mistakes of the past.